So on Wednesday, you guys learned about the 3 different types of cuts we use in construction. So we talked about a mitered cut, which is when we twist our saw, but it's still upright at 90 degrees. So we call that our miter. Then we also talked about a beveled cut, which we're moving at 90 degrees front to back, but we are tilting or beveling our saw or tilting. So that is a beveled cut. The third one was a compound cut, which is when we combine a miter and a bevel so that your saw goes twist and tilt. That's a compound. So today what I want to show you is if you've laid out your piece so that it has this triangular shape on it, what I want to show you is how to cut that with your saw. And what we are going to be doing is making a beveled cut. So you should have watched the video on how to lay out this shape. The thing that we need to do next is we need to make sure that we have a square cut going across the top. So what I'm going to do is get my square, and I'm going to line up my square with this point here and transfer that so that we are making a beveled cut, not a compound cut. So there. Now we're going 90 degrees or square across. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And there's our 2 90-degree lines, and here is our beveled angle. So now what I'm going to do is move my cuts past my miter box here, and I'm going to clamp that. I'm going to get my clamp here, maybe clamp back here, keep my saw out of the way. Now, we are going to be going at 90 degrees, so if I held this here, my saw is going to be going 90 degrees front to back. However, I'm going to tilt it. I'm going to start by doing this one, and the first thing I like to do is pull back right along this line, and I'm going to come on the inside of this line. So what I want to do is I want to cut just on the inside of this line and just on the inside of this line all the way down, so then I can either get a file or sandpaper and sand right down to the line to be more precise. If you're really good with the saw, then you could cut right on the line. I'm not great with the saw yet. So I'm going to cut just on the inside so I can file down to that line. So I'm going to pull back. So now I know that I'm doing 90 degrees because I don't want to twist my saw to make this a compound. So I'm going at 90 degrees. So here's my 90 degrees. My saw is right there. Now that I've gotten through that, just on the inside of that line, right here, tilt my camera. Bring this out here. Okay. Now we are going to tilt our saw here. So I have my 90 degrees. And now what I'm going to do is come back here and find that this tilt is at the same angle as the line drawn. So now I'm going to put my hand here. And I'm just going to slowly cut. You want to stay pretty close to that line. I'm moving forward and back. If you want, you could even keep this here to give you as a guide so that you know you're going at 90 degrees parallel to this right here. And I'm looking over on this side to make sure that my saw is cutting right down this line. Now, if it starts to get off, what you need to do is twist the saw one way or the other. So you might have to start this cut a little bit more. So you can see I'm starting to come into the line right here. So what I need to do is tilt the saw a little bit more this way as I'm making this cut, which means I need to twist my wrist. And I'm gonna straighten that cut out simply by turning my wrist. Remember, the saw is only cutting on that forward cut. And I'm gonna cut right down to the bottom. So if we look here, I cut right down to here and I stopped. So I kept this at 90 degrees the whole way, so my saw never twisted. However, it did tilt. So we tilted it to follow down this line. Now what we're going to do is keep it at 90 degrees, not change our twist, and we're going to tilt the saw at a bevel at this angle. So I'm going to clamp this again. I'm just going to keep my saw upright right now. Pull back just on the inside of this 90-degree line until it goes all the way through. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is, in that little saw curve, I'm going to tilt my saw, making sure that I'm not twisting it at the same time. So I'm keeping it there at 90 degrees, and I'm going to tilt it to go in the same angle as this line is going. So now I'm going to look right at my saw, staying on the inside of my line so I can always see my line. Now I'm going to check. It looks like I'm starting to twist my saw. So see that? Those aren't parallel. This angle is not, this blade is not parallel, it's twisted like this. See, this gap is bigger here than here. So what I need to do is actually twist, because it's going to make my cut a lot harder. So I want to keep going at that 90 degrees. So I'm going to come back here. Come just, there we go. Okay, let's look at our cuts here. Now this cut stayed at 90 degrees, and then it tracked off a little bit. This one I kept the line, and now I can file that down. So now you're going to do that to the other side. Remember, we're not doing rectangular or square type cuts. Then you're going to do that to your top pieces. If you haven't done the Wednesday assignment on practicing these cuts on a scrap piece of wood, I would suggest doing that before you start on your pieces here. So go slow. If you start to veer off on one of your cuts, pull the saw back up, adjust the cut to get back on track, even if you need to make another cut just on the inside and then file or sand that down. So take your time. It will get better, and it will get easier as you practice. So have fun with making these cuts.